Hey there, Meadowbrook Church. Welcome back to our Storytellers Initiative. In this video, we're going to talk about what makes a good story. If we are asking you to know your story and to tell your story, because like it says in Psalm 107 verse 2, let the redeemed of the Lord tell their story, the question is, well, how do we put our story together in a way where people would be interested in hearing the story of what God is doing in our lives? A couple of years ago, I came across a definition of a story that I thought was really helpful in understanding what makes a good story. And that definition was simply that a story is about a character who wants something and overcomes conflict to get it and then changes in the process. Those four elements are always present in a good story. There is a character who wants something and overcomes struggle or hardship to get it, and they change in the process. If you think of different stories in your life that have really captivated you, or movies that you've watched that have been really compelling, those four elements are probably there. I was thinking not that long ago about the movie Sandlot. If you've ever seen the movie from the 90s, The Sandlot, those four elements are there. There's the main character, the boy who they call Smalls in the story. He's new to a community, new to a town. He needs friends. What does he want? He wants friends. He wants to fit in. He wants to belong. And a boy in his neighborhood runs by and invites him to play baseball. His problem is he knows nothing about baseball. He doesn't know how to play baseball. And he's actually rejected by this group of kids who realize he is terrible at baseball. So he is the character who wants friends, and he has to overcome this struggle and this conflict of not knowing anything about this sport to become good at it, to fit at this team. And as the movie goes on, you watch him transform from a really shy, insecure kid to a kid who's confident, who knows a lot about baseball and can do hard things in the face of a challenge. And so a story is simply about a character who wants something, who overcomes conflict to get it, and then changes in the process. Now, when we think about faith, all of those things are true about our own story with regards to what God is doing in our lives. In your story is about you. You are the main character. And whether you realize it or not, we are driven by desire. We are driven by the things that we want. And Jesus knows this to be true. When you see Jesus engage with people in the Gospels, he's regularly asking the question, what do you want? Because Jesus knows that we are actually driven by our desires more than being driven by what we know to be true. Not that doctrine and good theology is unimportant, but we're actually driven by what we want more so than anything else. Now, that doesn't mean all our desires are good desires. We also have to wrestle and check our desires to see if they align with God's desires and God's will for our life, but we're driven by our desires. So the question for us is, what do we want? What are we after? Naturally, because our world is fallen, naturally because our world is broken, we are going to run into hardship. Things are going to be difficult. There is going to be struggle in our lives, and we're going to have to overcome all sorts of hardship along the way in our story. And lastly, what we're really about is transformation. It says in Romans 12, verse 1 and 2, be transformed by the renewing of your mind. This is your spiritual act of worship. The hope is that as we pursue Jesus, as our story is continually written, we would be changed and transformed into the likeness of Christ. And so those four elements are always present in a good story. The character is after something that they want. They have to overcome hardship to get it, and they change in the process. Now, there's one other key element that is always present in a good story, and that is a guide. Along the way, there is some guide who helps the main character have the wisdom and the know-how and the support and the coaching and the encouragement that they need to become this person that they are desiring to be. So again, you go back to the movie The Sandlot. There's the neighborhood boy, I'm pretty sure his name is Benny in the movie. He is the one who comes along Scotty Smalls to coach him and encourage him and keep walking with him to give him vision for who he will ultimately become. In your life, it is the Spirit of God who is your guide. The good news of the gospel is that you have the Spirit of God with you. The other guide is the scriptures. You have the scriptures. You have the accessibility to God through his Spirit in the scriptures. And then you have his people. You are surrounded by all sorts of support and encouragement and guidance in your life as you pursue who God desires you to be. So the question is, what are you after in life? The question is, what is God doing in your life? The question is, are your desires in line with God's desires? What sort of hardship are you facing? And where are you seeing God continually shape and transform you? And so when it comes to telling your story, it's helpful to think about those few things. Your story is about you. What do you want? What sort of hardship are you facing? What sort of hardship are you overcoming? And how are you changing in the process? And where do you see God through his Spirit, through his scriptures, and his people guiding you along the way? And so when it comes to telling your story, if you can name those things, it helps you frame the story of what God is doing in your life. And hopefully it gives you some handles on how to tell that story to other people. Hope this video has been helpful. In our next video, we're going to look at how to follow God's guidance. If God is always present in at work, if God is leading you, how is it that you follow what he's doing and where he's leading? How do you know that it's him who's leading you? So we're going to look at that in our next video. Look forward to seeing you again real soon.